Happening now, John Deere's CEO has just made a shocking move that no one in the farming world saw coming. A $34.5 billion U.S. farming giant, a company that has been the backbone of rural America for decades, is now facing a sudden shutdown, and it's sending shockwaves across the agricultural industry. Farmers are stunned, workers are blindsided, and Wall Street is scrambling to make sense of this decision that could reshape American farming forever. At the heart of this bold move is a radical restructuring plan that the CEO claims is necessary for survival in an era of skyrocketing costs, falling crop prices, and intense global competition. But the timing couldn't be worse. Harvest season is looming, supply chains are already fragile, and rural communities that depend on this company for jobs and equipment are now staring at an uncertain future. For decades, this farming company has been tied at the hip with John Deere. It provided the equipment, the financing, and the technology that powered millions of acres of farmland. To shut it down now isn't just a business decision. It's a seismic event that threatens to ripple through every corner of America's food supply. Farmers who already feel squeezed by inflation, rising debt, and corporate consolidation now fear they've lost one of their last lifelines. Behind closed doors, insiders suggest the CEO's decision is driven by something bigger than finances. It's about reshaping the very model of farming in America. Instead of relying on traditional operations, there are whispers of Deere pivoting toward high-tech automation, AI-driven farming solutions, and massive global partnerships that leave smaller U.S. farmers out in the cold. This isn't just the closure of a company, it's the beginning of a battle for who controls America's farmland. The independent farmer, or corporate giants who see fields not as heritage but as data-driven assets. And while the CEO calls this a bold step into the future, many on the ground are calling it a betrayal of the very people who built Deere into the powerhouse it is today. Already, farmers across the Midwest are gathering at emergency town halls, demanding answers. For them, this isn't just a business closure, it's personal. They've signed contracts, financed equipment, and trusted that this $34.5 billion giant would stand by them through droughts, floods, and market crashes. Now, with the CEO's sudden announcement, those same farmers are left with broken agreements, delayed deliveries, and no clear path forward. The sense of betrayal is spreading like wildfire across rural America. Economists warn this shutdown could trigger a chain reaction. Without the company's financing arm, many small and mid-sized farmers won't be able to secure loans for seed, fertilizer, or new equipment. That means fewer planted acres, lower yields, and eventually, higher food prices for everyone. Grocery shelves in major cities may soon feel the impact of a decision made in a boardroom thousands of miles away. And let's not forget the tens of thousands of employees who worked in the factories, distribution centers, and service hubs tied to this company. Many of them now facing layoffs overnight. But what's most unsettling is the silence from Washington. While farmers are sounding the alarm, the government's response has been muted, almost hesitant, as if they, too, were caught off guard. Some insiders speculate that powerful lobbying groups knew this was coming and may have even encouraged it, seeing an opportunity to push farming deeper into corporate-controlled territory. If that's true, then this shutdown isn't just a business move, it's part of a much larger shift in who owns and operates America's food system. And here's where things get even more explosive. Documents leaking from within John Deere suggest that this so-called shutdown may not be a retreat at all. Instead, it could be the first stage of a global consolidation plan, one that would see Deere partnering with massive foreign agribusinesses to dominate markets worldwide. If that happens, U.S. farmers might not just lose their company, they could lose control of their own future. If the rumors are true, then this move isn't about shrinking, it's about shifting power on a global scale. Imagine America's farmland, once the pride of independent families, now tied to international corporations that don't answer to U.S. farmers, but to global markets. Already, whispers are spreading that massive players from Europe and Asia are lining up to seize the vacuum this shutdown creates. If John Deere redirects its resources into foreign partnerships, American farmers could find themselves leasing land, buying seed, and even selling crops under terms dictated by overseas executives. Rival companies aren't sitting still either. Competitors in the ag-tech and machinery sectors smell blood in the water. Some are moving aggressively to scoop up Deere's abandoned contracts, while others are preparing to launch cutthroat pricing strategies to capture desperate farmers. But here's the catch. Many of those rivals are just as tied to global investors, meaning that while it may look like competition, the real winners may still be the same handful of corporate giants who already dominate agriculture worldwide. Meanwhile, farmers on the ground are facing impossible choices. Do they take on crushing new loans just to stay afloat? Do they risk switching to smaller equipment makers that might not survive the coming storm? Or do they give up altogether, selling their land to developers or corporate buyers who see farmland as a financial asset rather than a way of life? Each decision pushes rural America further from independence and closer to corporate dependence. The global food market is already reacting. Grain futures are swinging wildly, international buyers are circling U.S. farms like vultures, and shipping companies are preparing for disruptions in exports. If Deere's shutdown triggers even a small dip in American crop production, it could send ripple effects across the world, raising food prices, stoking shortages, and fueling geopolitical tensions. And all of this traces back to a single decision made at the very top. Across America's heartland, the human cost of this shutdown is starting to surface. Families that have depended on steady factory jobs for generations are waking up to pink slips and shuttered plants. In small towns where this company was the largest employer, the ripple effects are brutal. Restaurants are empty, local shops are closing early, and schools are bracing for budget shortfalls as tax revenues collapse. What once felt like tight-knit farming communities now feels like towns on the brink of collapse. For farmers, the emotional toll is even heavier. Some have already mortgaged their homes and land to keep their operations alive, believing this $34.5 billion giant would be there to back them up. Now, with the company gone, many are staring at piles of unpaid bills, repossessed equipment, and the grim prospect of losing land that's been in their families for over a century. The heartbreak of possibly being the last generation to farm that soil is crushing, and it's creating a wave of despair across rural America. And then there are the young people, sons and daughters of farmers who grew up dreaming of carrying the family tradition forward. Suddenly, those dreams are evaporating. Many are leaving for the cities, searching for stable work, while others are questioning whether farming even has a future. This isn't just an economic crisis. It's an identity crisis for entire communities that have always defined themselves by their connection to the land. Local leaders are scrambling to respond. County boards are holding emergency meetings, churches are organizing food drives for laid-off workers, and farmer co-ops are trying to rally support to buy equipment and supplies in bulk. But the scale of the shutdown is overwhelming. Without access to financing and without the stability of this farming giant, small towns feel abandoned, left to fend for themselves in a system designed to crush them. And what's most haunting is the silence from Deere's leadership. While families pack up their belongings and farms prepare for foreclosure, the CEO has remained behind closed doors, offering carefully scripted statements about innovation and the future of agriculture. To the people losing everything, those words feel hollow, like corporate jargon masking a deeper agenda. When Deere's CEO speaks of innovation, it's becoming clear he isn't talking about helping the everyday farmer. Behind the buzzwords lies a vision of agriculture stripped of tradition and rebuilt around automation, artificial intelligence, and data control. Imagine vast fields managed not by families who know the soil, but by fleets of self-driving tractors, drones scanning every acre, and AI algorithms dictating when to plant, water, and harvest. For corporate leaders, this future is efficient and profitable. For farmers, it looks like extinction. Already, Deere has been pouring billions into high-tech farming systems, from autonomous combines to precision seeders connected to cloud platforms. In theory, these tools promise higher yields and lower costs. But in practice, they lock farmers into expensive contracts, proprietary software, and data-sharing agreements that hand control of the land over to the corporations. The more innovative the equipment, the less independence the farmer has. Once you're inside the system, you can't fix your own machines, you can't plant outside their algorithms, and you can't negotiate fair prices because the company owns the data that proves your farm's worth. And here's the brutal truth. This shutdown of the $34.5 billion farming company looks less like a retreat and more like a clearing of the playing field. By cutting ties with traditional farming operations, Deere can pivot entirely toward this new high-tech model, free from the burden of serving small and mid-sized farmers. The casualties are the very people who built the backbone of American agriculture. Industry insiders are warning that this is only the beginning. Other corporations are watching closely, and if Deere's gamble pays off, they'll follow the same path, abandoning legacy farming in favor of AI-driven mega-operations. That could mean the death of family farms as we know them, replaced by corporate-controlled smart farms, where robots till the soil and algorithms decide the future of America's food supply. And yet, despite the optimism from corporate boardrooms, not everyone is convinced this future is sustainable. Farmers are fighting back, activist groups are organizing, and whispers of resistance are growing louder. Rural America may be wounded, but it is not silent, and many are preparing to push back against a system that threatens to erase their way of life. Across the Midwest, resistance is beginning to take shape. Farmers who usually see each other as competitors are now sitting at the same tables, sharing coffee in co-op halls, and plotting how to survive together. Some are pooling their resources to buy second-hand equipment, refusing to let Deere's tech stranglehold dictate their every move. Others are turning to independent mechanics, even underground repair networks, to keep their machines running without paying Deere's steep software fees. It's a quiet rebellion, but it's growing. Worker unions are joining the fight too. Factory employees who've been laid off aren't just walking away, they're organizing protests outside shuttered plants, demanding answers and pushing lawmakers to intervene. For them, this isn't just about jobs, it's about dignity. These are communities that built America's farming backbone, and they're not ready to watch it all vanish because of one CEO's gamble. At the same time, activist groups are pushing this battle into the political spotlight. They're warning that if corporations like Deere succeed, America's food independence could be lost to foreign investors and AI-driven megafarms. Petitions are circulating, town hall meetings are packed, and state legislatures are under pressure to pass right-to-repair laws that would strip Deere of its control over farm machinery. Farmers are finding their voices, and for the first time in years, the country is starting to listen. But Deere isn't standing still. Reports suggest the company is doubling down on its automation strategy, pouring billions into research labs, hiring AI engineers, and rolling out pilot projects where human farmers are completely removed from the process. This isn't just a business pivot, it's a declaration of war on traditional farming. And every step Deere takes toward this vision pushes rural America further toward a breaking point. Communities are now split. Some believe fighting Deere is the only way to preserve their independence. Others fear resistance will only accelerate their decline, forcing them to sell off their land before they're left with nothing. It's a battle not just for survival, but for the soul of American farming. Washington can no longer ignore what's happening. Senators from farm states are demanding emergency hearings, warning that the collapse of this $34.5 billion company could destabilize not just rural America but the nation's food security. Some lawmakers are calling for antitrust investigations, accusing Deere of deliberately crushing competition to dominate the future of farming. Others are floating bailout packages to keep small farmers afloat, but critics argue that handing out temporary aid won't fix a system being rewritten in favor of corporate giants. Behind the scenes, lobbyists are swarming Capitol Hill. Deere's allies are painting the company's shift as progress and necessary modernization, pushing lawmakers to embrace automation as the future of agriculture. At the same time, farmer advocacy groups are fighting back hard, testifying in hearings, holding rallies on the steps of state capitals, and warning that once family farms disappear, they will never return. The battle lines are being drawn, not just in the fields, but in the halls of power. Meanwhile, global powers are watching the chaos with sharp interest. Trade officials in China, Europe, and the Middle East are quietly preparing for disruptions in U.S. grain and soybean exports. Some are already positioning their own companies to fill the gap, offering American farmers contracts that bypass U.S. markets entirely. Others see opportunity in buying up distressed farmland, plots of soil that have been in American hands for generations now being eyed by foreign investors. For many rural families, the fear isn't just losing their farm. It's watching their land pass into the hands of corporations or nations that don't care about the community it once sustained. The White House is treading carefully, worried that any misstep could spark panic in food markets or a political firestorm in rural states. But every day of silence adds to the frustration on the ground, fueling a growing sense that farmers are being sacrificed for corporate experiments and international deals. And as global headlines warn of instability in America's food system, the pressure on Washington to act is reaching a boiling point. Wall Street is already circling this crisis like sharks. Investment firms are poring over Deere's bold shutdown, treating it not as a disaster, but as an opportunity to cash in. Hedge funds are betting big on Deere's pivot to automation, convinced that replacing farmers with AI-driven mega-operations will unlock record profits in the next decade. Stock analysts are spinning the move as visionary, arguing that the $34.5 billion company's collapse was strategic, a way to cut loose outdated business models and chase the future of agriculture. But while investors celebrate, rural communities are being gutted. For them, these are not numbers on a spreadsheet, they're livelihoods. Yet, to Wall Street, The layoffs, the foreclosures, the shuttered towns are simply short-term adjustments before the real money rolls in. And here's the chilling part. Financial insiders are predicting that Deere's bold gamble will trigger a wave of consolidations across the entire farming industry. Smaller companies that can't keep up with the new high-tech model will fold, their assets scooped up by larger corporations backed by private equity. Farming, once fragmented and diverse, could soon be dominated by a handful of megafirms controlling everything from seed to soil to sales. Global investors are also seizing the moment. Sovereign wealth funds from oil-rich nations are reportedly eyeing U.S. farmland as a safe asset in a volatile world. Billionaires are buying up massive tracts of agricultural land, knowing that in a future dominated by corporate farming, land itself will be the most valuable commodity of all. What once was family-owned and community-driven is now becoming a financial instrument, traded, leveraged, and speculated on like oil or gold. And while Wall Street claps, farmers are being forced into impossible deals. Some are being offered buyouts to hand over their land, while others are locked into crushing debt schemes designed to push them into bankruptcy. It's a cycle that benefits investors and corporations at the expense of those who actually work the land. The game has shifted, and the farmers who can't adapt to this new model are being squeezed out faster than ever before. And here's the reality. This isn't just about one CEO or one company. What's unfolding right now is a turning point for America's food system, for rural communities, and for the very idea of farming as we know it. Families are fighting to hold on, corporations are rewriting the rules, and global investors are circling the heartland like vultures. The choices made in the next few months will decide whether America's farmland remains in the hands of those who work it, or becomes just another asset controlled by the powerful few. This story is far from over. The stakes are rising, the battle lines are hardening, and the future of American farming hangs in the balance. Stay tuned, because what happens next could change not just our farms, but our food, our towns, and our way of life. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, share it with others who need to know what's happening, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this unfolding crisis.